Hello, everyone, and welcome to English Pod. My name is Marco.
I'm Amira.
Hey, Amira, how are you today?
I'm doing great. What about you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited about this lesson that you have for us today.
Yes, it's actually a very, very useful lesson. It's about someone asking his boss for an assistant.
Oh, okay, an assistant. What's an
Yes.
assistant?
Well, it's someone who helps you with your work around the office.
Okay, great. So let's listen to this dialogue, and when we come back, we'll take a look at all the interesting and useful vocabulary that you'll find.
Like I told you before, we just don't have the resources to hire you an assistant.
I understand that, but the fact is, we're understaffed.
The timing is just not right. The economy's bad, and it's too risky to take on new staff.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Here's an idea. What if we hire an intern? She would take some of the weight off my shoulders.
She?
Yeah, you know, a recent graduate. She could give me a hand with some of these projects, and we could keep our costs down.
That sounds reasonable. Let me see what I can do. Tony, I'd like to introduce you to your new assistant.
Okay, great. Let's meet her.
Hi, I'm Adam.
Oh,
Vocabulary
hi,
preview.
I'm Tony.
And we're back. Tony, he's surprised, huh?
Yeah, he's, I don't know why, though, he's surprised. I think we should talk about that a little bit later.
Yes, for now, let's look at some interesting vocabulary and phrases here. Marco, I know you've chosen one for us.
Yeah, the first one that I want to take a look at is resources.
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 And that means, in this text, basically money.
Right.
So the office doesn't have enough money.
Okay. I've chosen another interesting word for you, and that's understaffed.
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 Now, understaffed means that they don't have enough people working there.
They don't have enough workers.
Right. They don't have enough employees.
Perfect. Okay. The next one is timing is just not right.
The timing is just not right.
The timing is just not right.
The timing is just not right.
Okay, let's listen to how we can use this entire phrase in a different situation so then we can understand what it means. Let's listen.
I was gonna sell my house, but the timing is just not right. Honey, I think we should have a baby.
The timing is just not right.
Okay, great. I guess that makes it clear.
Yes, actually, it's very obvious that it means that it's just not a good time.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah. I have another interesting phrase for you, which is weight off my shoulders.
Weight off my shoulders.
Weight off my shoulders.
Weight off my shoulders.
So, to take weight off my shoulders is another way of saying to help me with my work or to take some of my work away from me.
If you have a lot of things to do and I come and help you, that means that I took some of the weight off your shoulders.
Yes.
Let's look at the next phrase that we have here, and it's give me a hand.
Give me a hand.
Give me a hand.
Give me a hand.
Okay, now this is not literal. It's not that I'm gonna give you somebody's hand, right? Let's listen to some examples and then we can come back and explain what it means.
Can you give me a hand with these boxes?
Neil, I'll need you to give me a hand with the sales reports.
Dialogue.
Here, let me give you a hand with your suitcase.
All right. Give me a hand is another way of saying help or to help out.
Exactly, to help out.
Right.
Perfect.
Now, the last phrase we're going to look at here in this dialogue is keep our costs down.
Keep our costs down.
Keep our costs down.
Keep our costs down.
So to keep our costs down means to try and not spend so much money.
Exactly. Many companies, for example, now control how much printing you do,
Yes.
right? To keep
Yes.
the cost down of paper.
Yeah, so in other words, they do not want to have unnecessary spending.
Perfect. Okay, I think it's time for us to listen to this dialogue one more time, but I want everyone to listen and see why Tony is surprised at the end when he meets his intern, when he meets his assistant.
Like I told you before, we just don't have the resources to hire you an assistant.
I understand that, but the fact is, we're understaffed.
The timing is just not right. The economy's bad, and it's too risky to take on new staff.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Here's an idea. What if we hire an intern? She would take some of the weight off my shoulders.
She?
Yeah, you know, a recent graduate. She could give me a hand with some of these projects, and we could keep our costs down.
That sounds reasonable. Let me see what I can do. Tony, I'd like to introduce you to your new assistant.
Okay, great. Let's meet her.
Hi, I'm Adam.
Oh, hi, I'm Tony.
Well, you know, Marco, I think that Tony was really surprised because he was kind of hoping to have a female intern.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he was expecting. Maybe this guy is a little bit sexist. He thought that an intern should be a girl, but instead he
got Adam.
Exactly, and it looks like Adam is really big and really tall because he's got that deep voice.
Right. An intern, Marco, do you want to elaborate on that?
Working at a company with a very low salary or sometimes no salary at all, but what you're gaining is experience and you're learning a lot of things. Everyone who has been an intern or had an intern knows that sometimes they are not treated all that well. Sometimes they just serve coffee or they have to do paperwork.
Or like photocopying things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But some internships are really, really cool, and some are really good experiences for learning.
Yes, definitely. Actually, I know a friend of mine. She used to work as an intern in one of those really big companies, and she told me that she has gained so much experience doing that.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't get paid, the experience that you get is really good. And that just opens doors for maybe getting another job. Or sometimes the interns get hired by the company to stay because they do such a good job.
Yeah, I think that's mostly the case, huh?
Yeah, that happened to me once. I started working as an intern, and after 3 months, I was hired by the company. So it does happen, believe me.
So you did a good job.
Yeah, of course. All right, folks, we're out of time today. I hope that you enjoyed our lesson, and we'll be back tomorrow with another really cool and really interesting lesson from EnglishPod. Don't forget to come to our website at englishpod.com, where you'll find some really great and interesting resources to help you learn and improve your English even more.
Yes, you should definitely do that. And Marco and I would love to receive your comments and suggestions that you can leave on our community forum. But for now, it's time for us to say bye.
All right, so are you ready to decode some workplace lingo?
I think so. Bring it on.
Okay, good. Because today's deep dive is all about those kind of tricky phrases you hear around the office.
The ones that make you go, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to like staffing and, you know, those delicate conversations with your boss.
Ooh, yeah, those can be tough.
For sure. And to help us break it all down, we've got this snippet from a language learning podcast.
Oh, cool. So it's like real world examples.
Yeah, basically like we're eavesdropping on an office conversation.
I like it. It's amazing how much meaning gets packed into these like simple phrases.
Right. It's like once you understand what's really being said, you suddenly have this secret decoder ring for the whole workplace.
Totally. Like take the word resources, for example. Seems straightforward enough.
Yeah, but
in what context it takes on a whole new meaning.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Why is resources such a loaded term? What's the subtext there?
Well, you got to think about it. Every decision a company makes, from hiring new people to like approving projects, it all comes down to one thing: money.
Oh.
And resources is often just a polite way of saying, we don't have the budget for that.
So basically, when you hear your boss talking about resources,
They're really talking about the bottom line.
gotcha. And that brings us to another phrase we hear all the time, understaffed.
Ugh. Yeah, I think most of us have been there.
Dialogue.
Totally. Longer hours, more stress, everyone doing the work of two people.
It's a recipe for burnout, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But how does understaffed connect back to this whole resources thing?
Well, it's pretty simple. Being understaffed usually means the company isn't willing or maybe not able to spend the money.
The resources.
Yeah, exactly, to hire more people. It might be a way to save money in the short term, but it often creates bigger problems later on.
Like decreased productivity, lower morale, and eventually people start quitting.
Exactly. It's
Wow.
classic short-term thinking leading to long-term consequences.
Ugh, it's so frustrating. And then there's that phrase that can feel like a punch to the gut, especially when you're already swamped.
Which one?
The timing's not right.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Is it ever really the right time?
Haha, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, sometimes it might actually be about priorities changing.
Or like something unexpected comes up.
Right, exactly. But sometimes,
Sometimes it feels like a way of just saying no without actually saying it.
yeah, you're picking up on the subtext there. It can be a way of avoiding a difficult conversation, delaying a decision, or even like subtly shifting blame. It's all about reading between the lines and understanding the context.
It's like they're trying to maintain control without having to fully explain themselves.
Exactly. It's fascinating how that works.
I wonder how often that's a conscious decision versus just something they do without thinking.
Good question. Because sometimes you just need an extra set of hands, you know?
Literally like, take the weight off my shoulders, kind of.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's a phrase that really paints a picture.
It does. And
Yeah,
it makes you realize how important delegation is in the workplace.
for sure. It's not just about reducing your own workload. It's about giving others a chance to step up, developing their skills, and building a stronger team.
So asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. It actually shows you're a good leader.
Exactly. Someone who knows how to use the strengths of their team.
Okay, so we've talked about resources, understaffed, and that ever-elusive right timing. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about internships.
Ah, yes. Internships. The training ground for future professionals.
Where you get to experience the joys of keeping our costs down.
Uh-huh. Right.
Okay, but before we dive into that one, let's back up a sec. For anyone who might not know, can you explain what an internship actually is?
Sure. An internship is basically a temporary position that gives students or recent grads a chance to get some real-world experience in a particular field.
Kind of like a bridge between school and a real job.
Exactly.
And let's be honest, companies often hire interns because it's cheaper labor, right?
That's definitely a major factor. They can get help with all sorts of tasks without having to pay a full salary and benefits.
So that's where the phrase keep our costs down comes in.
Yep. Often used to justify hiring interns, especially when budgets are tight.
But it's important to remember that internships should benefit both sides, right?
Absolutely. It's not just about the company saving money. It's about giving interns valuable experience that can help them launch their careers.
So for interns, a good internship is like an investment in their future.
Right. They get to learn new skills,
Vocabulary
make
preview.
connections, build their resumes.
But of course, there can be downsides too.
Definitely. If an internship isn't structured well, it can end up being just busy work. You know, menial tasks that don't really help the intern grow professionally.
And unfortunately, some companies take advantage of interns, expecting them to work long hours for little or no pay.
Yeah, that's why it's so important for interns to do their research. Ask the right questions and make sure the internship is actually a good fit for their goals.
And for companies, it's crucial to create internship programs that actually provide real value.
To both the intern and the organization.
Now, speaking of internships, the podcast clip we're looking at today has a bit of a twist when it comes to the intern they're talking about.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Well, they keep referring to the intern as she.
Okay.
But then when we finally meet the intern, so to speak, His name is Adam.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
It's this funny little detail that highlights the assumptions we often make in the workplace.
It really does. We tend to have these preconceived notions about who should be doing what.
And that can lead to all sorts of biases and missed opportunities.
Totally. It's a good reminder to always question our assumptions and be open to different perspectives.
Because diversity makes any team stronger.
Absolutely. And sometimes the most unexpected candidate is the perfect fit.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from the hidden meaning of resources to the ethical considerations of internships.
It's amazing how much we can learn from just a few simple phrases.
Right. And there's still so much more to unpack in the world of workplace lingo.
I can't wait to dive in. You know, it's funny how these workplace phrases can be interpreted in so many different ways.
Oh, totally. Like even something as simple as the timing's not right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Sounds straightforward. But there's often a lot more going on beneath the surface.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break this down for me. What are some of those hidden messages behind the timing's not right?
Well, sometimes it's a subtle way of shifting responsibility. Like instead of saying, I'm not comfortable with this or this isn't a priority right now, they just blame it on the timing.
So it's like a way to avoid confrontation.
Exactly. It lets them sidestep the issue without giving a real reason.
And for the employee, it's got to be super frustrating.
Oh, absolutely. Because you're left wondering what the real issue is and if there's even a chance for the timing to ever be right.
So how do you deal with that? Like if your boss says the timing's not right, do you just give up?
Not necessarily. You could try asking for more information, like what factors are influencing the timing or what would need to change for it to be more favorable.
So you're not just blindly accepting it.
Right, exactly. It shows you're engaged and want to understand their perspective.
It's about finding that balance between being respectful but also assertive.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, you need to advocate for yourself and your ideas.
Okay, that makes sense. Sometimes the best approach might be to just table the conversation for later.
Yeah, when the timing might actually be better.
All right, so we've unmasked. The timing's not right.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about take the weight off my shoulders. It's a great image for delegating. But how do you ask for help without sounding like you're just trying to get out of work?
That's a great question. I think the key is to frame it in a way that benefits the whole team.
Yeah.
Like instead of focusing on your own workload, you emphasize how delegating can make things more efficient, improve the quality, and even give others a chance to learn.
So instead of I'm drowning, can you take this off my plate? It's more like delegating this would let me focus on X and give you a chance to develop your skills in Y.
Exactly. You're finding that win-win.
And remember, delegating isn't weak. It actually shows you're a strong leader.
Absolutely. Someone who trusts their team and wants them to grow.
And that trust is so important for a good work environment.
Oh, totally. When people feel empowered to contribute and support each other, everyone benefits.
Now let's circle back to internships for a minute. We talked about keep our costs down. But what are some warning signs that an internship might not be a good fit? How can interns avoid getting taken advantage of?
Well, if the description is vague or the tasks seem totally unrelated to your field, that's a red flag.
Okay.
Also, watch out for internships with little or no pay or ones that expect you to work crazy hours without any guidance.
It's important to remember interns have rights too.
Absolutely. They shouldn't be treated like cheap labor. They deserve respect and support.
And if it doesn't feel right, it's okay to walk away.
Exactly. There are other opportunities out there. Find one that values your growth.
Speaking of growth, remember in that podcast clip they talk about giving the intern a chance to shine?
Yeah.
But then they have him clean the break room microwave.
Oh my gosh. That's a
There's
little
like this disconnect between their words and actions.
It really is. It shows how even with good intentions, companies can miss the mark when it comes to internships.
It's a good reminder to look beyond the fancy words and see if the internship actually aligns with your goals.
Right. Find that sweet spot where everyone benefits.
Okay, so we've decoded the timing's not right and talked about ethical internships. There's one more phrase I want to unpack.
Which one?
Give me a hand.
Yes. A seemingly simple request, but it can mean so many different things depending on the context.
Exactly. It can be genuine, help a nudge towards collaboration, or even like a demand disguised as a request.
Sometimes it's hard to tell which one it is.
You really have to rely on your workplace intuition.
Your spidey sense for office dynamics.
Exactly. Speaking of which, I have a confession. Early in my career, I totally misread this phrase, and it was so embarrassing.
Oh, no. What happened?
Well, a senior colleague said, "Give me a hand with this, would you?"
Yeah.
And I, being all eager to impress, launched into this whole analysis of the project offering all these ideas.
Oh, I see where this is going.
It turns out all he wanted was for me to make some copies.
Oof, been there.
It was a good lesson in reading the room and those unspoken workplace rules.
It really highlights how even simple phrases can have these hidden meanings.
It's all about developing that workplace intuition,
Mm.
you know, that ability to sense the dynamics and adjust accordingly.
Like a sixth sense for office politics.
Exactly. And it takes time and experience.
And maybe a few awkward missteps along the way.
Oh, for sure. But hey, that's how we learn. And I think that's a great place to wrap up part 2 of our deep dive. So we spent this whole deep dive dissecting these everyday office phrases.
Especially the ones around staffing and those conversations with your boss.
Yeah, like how much is really being said versus what's left unsaid.
The subtext.
Exactly. And for me, one of the biggest takeaways is the importance of context.
Oh, for sure.
Like the same phrase can mean totally different things depending on who's saying it.
How they're saying it.
The situation.
Like you said, it's all about the context. You really hit the nail on the head with that one.
It's like learning a whole new language, right?
Yeah.
The language of the workplace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It has its own vocabulary, its own grammar.
Even its own etiquette.
And if you want to get ahead in your career, you got to learn to speak it fluently.
It can make all the difference in how you build relationships, handle tough situations.
And how you advocate for yourself.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some tips for mastering the art of workplace communication?
Well, first and foremost, be an active listener. Don't just focus on the words, pay attention to the tone of voice,
The body language.
the whole context of the conversation.
It's about being present and picking up on those subtle cues.
Exactly. And don't be shy about asking questions if something's unclear,
It shows you're engaged.
that you care about understanding their perspective.
And my next tip is be mindful of your own communication style.
Oh, that's a good one.
Think about how your words and actions come across to other people
It's about developing self-awareness.
and adjusting your style to different situations.
Because what works in one setting might not work in another.
And lastly, I'd say, don't forget to find the humor in it all
The workplace can be a pretty funny place sometimes.
when you think about it.
It's true. And sometimes the best way to deal with those absurdities is to just laugh.
It can help you connect with your colleagues,
Diffuse tension.
keep a more positive outlook.
So as we close out this episode, I hope you've gained some valuable insights into the hidden meanings behind those everyday workplace phrases.
Remember, it's not just about the words themselves.
It's about understanding the context,
Subtext.
the unspoken rules of the game.
And most importantly, have fun with it.
Because when you approach workplace communication with curiosity and a willingness to learn,
It becomes less of a chore and more of an adventure.
thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time.
Happy decoding.
The second paragraph of the dialogue